Downtown Dalton makes room for a new whiskey distillery.
I think it'll do nothing but help. I mean, we're a business-friendly town, and the more businesses we have, especially here in downtown Dalton, the better for everyone.
Dalton Distillers will be making authentic whiskey from an old family recipe. Owner Chuck Butler is keeping the tradition alive, following the footsteps of his father and grandfather, except Chuck is doing it legally.
My whole life I'd always hear of Dad speaking of how he grew up. He worked closely with his dad and all of his uncles and a lot of family members, and it's a good, close, tight group of family members. And that's something that I wanted to offer. You know, the main thing I wanted is so that people could come in, they could tour a small historical building and, you know, watch my dad excited. You know, he's 73 years old now, and I've never seen him this happy, this excited, where he's able to talk to complete strangers, and by the time he's talked to them over a 15, 20-minute tour, they feel like they've known them for a lifetime. You know, it's fun to look at how you start out with raw ingredients. We cook our cornmeal. We take our time after 2 days. We add water to it that we filter through, I call it a redneck reverse osmosis filter. And, you know, you see the fermentation come to life. And then whenever it's ready, you know, we have enough fermentation vats that people, when they come in to Dalton Distillery, they can see every stage of fermentation. Sometimes they can see the still operating. So no matter what time somebody comes in and tours, they're able to speak with my dad, and they're able to see some form of fermentation and able to leave with a sample of a good product that my dad has made for over 65 years. He makes it the same way.
In the 1940s and early 50s, small-town America, plagued with remnants of sacrificial rationing from a war, families did whatever they could to get ahead, and in most cases, just to make ends meet. It wasn't uncommon to use anyone and everyone for the family business. This was certainly the case for the Butler family.
I got started when I was about 6 years old. My dad put me down in one that's back over here. I mean, it's to clean it. If there's any green or any blue, that's got to come out of copper, because that's what's poisonous. That's where it gets its bad name. But when I come out, it had to look like a new penny. I mean, just scrub and wash and then drain everything out and get it ready to fill up with beer that was ready to run and make. I'd grind them all for him, and I'd malt it. I'd keep the mash stirred up, and I later started I'd have the still. I knowed when it was worked off, it was ready to run. He'd work a job. I'd have it filled up, ready for him when he came in. All he had to do was start it up and run it. I made it easy on him, because he'd worked the job and farmed and doing that too. So he just, I'd have it ready, the still filled up and ready to go when he came home from work. Yeah.
One of the main things that I wanted to start up a true Moonshine distillery is to let people, you know that my family done this to provide for themselves, to provide for their family. Whenever they would raise corn, they done it for several reasons. One, to feed the livestock, to grind into cornmeal, to eat for themselves, to feed the chickens, to feed other livestock, but then they would also distill it. And they knew that alcohol won't go bad, it don't ruin, alcohol doesn't go bad, and you can sell it. And it was a respected profession because they was doing it properly, they was doing it safely, and they wasn't doing anything that would hurt somebody. You know, it would be a good way to barter. You know, if somebody come in and offered them some labor to work in the fields, they could pay them with that. You know, so the main thing I wanted to let people know is my family wasn't out there to act like a bunch of redneck hillbillies breaking the law. You know, one is backed by math and science. There's a true chemistry to making good moonshine. So anybody that makes good moonshine, if you taste it, you know that they're a smart individual. You know, and there's a major art and craft to it. And the main thing is a lot of people want to talk about being an outlaw and being rough and hurting people. You know, that probably existed, but it didn't exist in the realm that my family was in.
Back in the days of Prohibition and the years following, especially in the Appalachian region, moonshining was a craft that often required partnering with the right people to be, shall we say, profitable.
Everybody got cut down, I guess, just about. That's the term we use for the revenue agent. Get cut down. The local law enforcement was good to. They were good about coming and notifying you, hey, the revenue's coming in. So what area do I need to look in? They'd tell you that. And my dad would always show them what area to go. It had been there at one time, but it was no longer there. Now, if you was making, we call poisonous whiskey, no. I mean, it making off tin or the old black pot, which would kill you. It'd kill you. They didn't help you on that, but. Some of them, they charged a fee for letting you buy. Some didn't. My dad didn't. He said he never did pay a fee. He just, my vote, he thought his vote was enough.
Now for young Raymond, it wasn't easy walking in his daddy's footsteps. Continuing with the family business led to some trouble of his own. On a few occasions, he had a few near misses himself.
One time, I was caught just going into the still. When everything is over with, and I made bond, got back, and I got 2 years probation. Paid the lawyer to defend us, give him a couple of gallons of whiskey, the lawyer, moonshine, to defend me and the other guy that we got caught. And then we had another one set up, and a federal probation officer come to see me. He had come over, and when he came, he was in the car. He didn't even get out of the car, but he had to talk to me and question me. And I had, from my knees down, the mash. And he asked me what that was. He knows what it was, but I said, I've been feeding hogs. And that was the end of it.
Chuck desperately wanted to keep the family tradition going, just not in the same way it had been done in the past. So he began working on that path to do so, legally.
My dad had a false positive reading for cancer. So my current employment was in law enforcement, and I was actually traveling. I was busy most of the time, and whenever I was at home, I was on the busy doing text or working on the computer. So even if I was there around my son, or we would go and spend time with my dad, I wasn't actually spending quality time. Whenever we had that false diagnosis, it was very scary. So I wanted to think of a way to start up a business to spend more time, quality time, to where a lot of the stories that my grandpa told, I'm remembering, I don't have that much memory of it. And I wanted my son to cherish those memories and have something documented where we could sit around, make moonshine legally, and I could have my son around it and be exposed to it, and it wouldn't be frowned upon.
Chuck has a burning desire for moonshine, just like most of everybody growing up, that was part of their heritage. Chuck wanted to show the people the new right process of moonshine. He wants to show the public people, he wants to put some kind of end to the myth of, some dumb redneck hillbilly backwoods, don't have any education whatsoever. You have to use math every day here. You have to be somewhat educated. You have to have a lot of common sense. And he's just putting to rest some of the myths that people have about moonshine that's just not true. And he offers a tour through here, and you can see for yourself, kind of the process, how everything works. You better understand it.
Whenever I started looking for a location, after I spoke with the TTB, they give me the format, the line, how I need to go after it, and you need to get permission from the state of Georgia. Whenever I started seeking permission from the state of Georgia, you had to be inside a jurisdiction that allows the sale of distilled spirits, either by the package, store, or by the drink. We currently live in an area that allows that. I spoke with that city government. They was completely against it and said that it would be a bad image for that community for me to offer it. Starting up a new business, you want to have support from your local government and support from the community. So I called a few people and I spoke with former Mayor David Pennington, and he welcomed me here. He encouraged me to make contact with the Downtown Development Authority. They helped me find this location. So for you to apply in Georgia, you have to have a lease. Since this is a historical building, I had to get a letter from the State Historical Society granting permission, and I had to submit that back into the TTB to start all the paperwork. But coming to Dalton, that's one of the reasons why, the only reason why I chose that name, Dalton Distillery. We really appreciate how the community's come around. We've got a lot of support. The Chamber of Commerce has been excellent. We have access to the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Development Authority. The city government officials have been very encouragement, and they actually passed a city ordinance to allow us to manufacture inside of downtown.
Now that the Dalton Distillery is official, having the opportunity to be a cultural destination as well as a historical venue is one of the next challenges. And as for the city of Dalton, the support doesn't stop there.
Well, I hope the reception has been very warm here, because we welcome new business, we welcome different businesses, and this is kind of unique, and I think it's an extra flavor to Dalton that we haven't had, and anything to keep the economy rolling here, and I think these guys are going to be a big part of it. It is going to be a destination spot, and I think they're located in a very strategic place right here with the old train depot and the Crescent City train car. When we get those things up and moving a little more, they're going to be part of the heartbeat of downtown. And we do have a lot of tourism here, tourism opportunities that we're trying to capitalize on, and these guys can be a big part of that.
He's so authentic. I mean, the overalls, the beard, he looks like he should be stealing moonshine in somebody's backyard. He is that authentic, and he really brings that genuine sense to the brand. So I think he's great for the brand. Chuck and Raymond are great guys, and I wish them all the best and hope they're very successful in this endeavor.
The product's phenomenal. You would think 111 proof moonshine that it's going to kind of get you in the back of the throat, and you're going to be like, you expect it, but it's really not. It's very smooth. It's got that little bit of warmth, very smooth moonshine.
Living in Northwest Georgia, we are blessed to be the home of floor covering manufacturing, primarily carpet manufacturing, really across North America and around the world. We're a leader in that. But that also comes with sort of being a one-horse, industry or community as far as our local economy. So is really as long as I've been alive, it's been a discussion in Northwest Georgia and in the Dalton area that we want to continue to grow and diversify and have other things that we offer to the greater community and to the economy. So, when you look at a place like the Dalton Distillery, obviously not tied to that traditional manufacturing background, an opportunity to go into a different direction. I think there's a unique aspect of the Dalton Distillery in that you're telling a story that's linked to part of the bigger story of North Georgia in general, and certainly that is what around here would have been called the white label liquor, that which was untaxed and certainly was done off the legal system. And so this ties to that story. So from a tourism standpoint, the ability to sort of say, here's how it's done, and here's how it's operating now, obviously in a legal setting, but this is its history, and this is where this comes from, and this is the background, and we're in the geography where that story took place.
Four of the main areas that we've identified for tourism, as far as leisure tourism, has been our Civil War heritage, our textile heritage, train heritage, and then our Cherokee heritage. So those are sort of the overarching areas that we market in terms of getting people to stop and see those assets. While they're here, they're always interested in other things. What else is going on around town? So an establishment like the distillery is something different and unique that we have to share with guests. And obviously, different visitors have different interests, but this gives us something that is not common in a lot of destinations. And so it's something that is really marketable for us to share with visitors while they're here.
Chuck's actually worked on this place probably going on 3 years now. He spent his money, his time, him and his dad, to open this place up, and worked out of their pockets for going on 3 years. So they have put a lot of effort. They didn't just say, well, we got this money to burn, we want to go make moonshine. They had worked and saved their money for this day to open this distillery. So, it wasn't handed to them. They had to work for it, which I think it makes it a lot better in the end when they do succeed. They can say they did it on their own.
In the commercial industry, a lot of well-known brands work to protect their brand and sometimes overstep and look and attack smaller businesses. And that's what happened with us whenever we was using Real Georgia Moonshine. A Kentucky-based company attacked us saying that they owned the right to use Georgia and corn whiskey. So instead of fighting it, which we checked into is going to be several $1,000s, we looked at about redoing a new label. So we used my dad's image called Raymond's Reserve. Put my dad's image on there, highlighted the state of Georgia, and put a star next to where Dalton is.
These challenges would be enough to bring anyone to their knees, but not Chuck. He used this as an opportunity to bring in some expertise to overcome this and potentially take his product globally.
Van, he came in, he was excited and interested and just wanting to help us be in sales. We started looking into different things, and whenever we found out that a lot of your gluten-free whiskeys or spirits is not being met to our customer base, it is a small niche market for a large distillery, but it's a good niche market for us.
The landscape for moonshine, traditional moonshine, is so competitive and so cutthroat that it doesn't matter how good a quality product you have, that's irrelevant. Everything's going to be based on price. So the bigger distillers, the bigger the moonshines, the more established facilities, they're going to have a leg up. Because corn whiskey, not that many people want corn whiskey by itself. What they want is, and what they're accustomed to, is an aged whiskey, what's been in a whiskey barrel, or a bourbon. A lot of bourbon drinkers. Our Tazray is the first whiskey or liquor produced in the world. I mean, that's a big statement when you say the world, but according to the TTB, it's never been done before, either produced in the United States or imported into the United States. So we can't find a record where anybody's ever made sunflower whiskey before. So that's what we're doing. We're the first producer of that sunflower spirit, and we're so excited about it for a simple reason. the taste. It's so unique and it's so enjoyable. Even at very high proofs, it has no burn. You know, we don't have any yeast in our process, which helps tremendously. You know, we go through the natural fermentation process. But on top of that, when you can have a spirit that is 90 proof and you can drink it straight and you have no burn and you have a wonderful aftertaste left on your palate, you got something very unique. So we knew we had something unique, and now we're at the process where we finally got the formulas approved by the TTB, and now we are working on the labels, getting them approved, and then we'll be working on distribution.
Now I really believe that we're going to be a national brand with the sunflowers. After we found out, and I've started studying more about sunflowers, Kansas, that's their state flower. I think that would be a good way that we can break into that state. In the Ukraine, that's their national flower. Russia produces and grows more sunflowers than any other nation in the world. So I think that we can end up turning this into a huge international, national brand whenever you structure it properly and stay, with the right vision.
We're going down a new frontier, something totally unknown and untried before. We know how to do it though. It took us a year to figure it out, but we know how to do it. It's not easy, but the quality of the product and bring something new to market that people have never seen before, never tasted. The excitement around when you tell people you got sunflower spirits is amazing. Everybody wants to try it. They have to try it. I can go and start talking about corn whiskey. Everybody says, oh, just like I did with Raymond. The first time I met him, I really wasn't interested in sampling it. But if he had had sunflower whiskey at that point, I would have had to. He still talked me into it. Raymond's a great salesman. So, but we're very excited about that.
Well, back then, about everybody drank that I can remember. Ministers did, politicians did, but there would be a few people could not handle it. I mean, I remember one guy, when he got a few drinks, he'd go home with his wife. So my dad, when he found that out, never let him have another drink. So he came one day and he said, hey, I need a drink bad. I'm in bad. My dad said, I don't have any, not a bit. What he meant, I don't have none for you. I was smiling and I said, oh yeah, you do. And I told on him. And I didn't get a whipping, but I'll never forget that one. I thought I was being a help, But you didn't let nobody have it that's going to go out and harm somebody or their family or whatever.